Hello there everyone, I'm licking light bulbs. More importantly, have you ever wanted to throw cabbage at your enemies? Better yet, plug in a micro USB cable and make your cabbage only deadlier, but also home in on your opponents. If this sounds appealing, well, Nahida's gone now, so have fun waiting for a rerun. Fun fact: small object on the library, no triangles or a pattern of rectangles on the ground, and hop or jump through spaces and retrieve the object. It's a children's game that can be played with several players or alone. Regrettably, I cannot confirm the accuracy of this information, as I spent the majority of my childhood watching German documentaries about the ancient Romans. Did you know that the ancient Romans military numbered about 250,000 men by the year 211 AD? Very interesting, I know. Anyways, today, as you probably haven't even noticed, giving my caffeine-fueled ramblings, this video is about Nahida. I won't bother to structure this video in any logical way. Deal with it. Gameplay. To make it short, Nahida can be played in two different ways. A scuffed off-field version of Dendro Traveler that doesn't even properly work in pure Bloom teams or Activate teams, and the much more reasonable and arguably objectively correct based on-field Gigajet Nahida. Using her in that role is perfectly balanced, as she applies so much Dendro that a level 20 Nahida could probably still clear Abyss. When it comes to her kit, all you need to know is that her skill can be pressed or held, both versions applying a Seed of Skana to enemies with a limit of 8 that hits opponents every 2.5 seconds, provided that you've triggered a reaction. However, if you are playing a triple Hydro Nahida Bloom team, well, get fucked, because your only way to apply Dendro is to trigger reactions, but your skill only hits enemies if you trigger a reaction. Does this sound confusing? That's because it is, and I'm not the right person to tell you about stuff requiring advanced brain usage, so go somewhere else. Moving on, her burst provides Nahida with buffs depending on the teammate's elements, Pyro increases her skill's damage, Electrode's trigger interval, and Hydro the burst's duration. Of course, Nahida has, like every other unit, 3 passive talents, the first one giving the active character EM based on 25% of the character with the highest EM in the party, the second one 0.1 damage percent and 0.03 crit rate for every point of EM beyond 200. Lastly, but also most importantly, her exploration talent, which, no kidding, is actually Nahida's highest selling point. Like, look at this, it's not gonna get any better than that. In fact, everything will get worse, infinitely worse. So format your hard drives both by Cantuna and say farewell to your loved ones, and prepare for 20 years of basement dwelling, only to one day decide to go and pick some berries, as the daily consumption of food has become so monotonous that it has completely destroyed every single one of your taste buds, only to see that society, in fact, hasn't collapsed, lulled into a false sense of security. You step onto the streets, only to see that your eyes have deceived you. Humanity has been annihilated. The facade of a working society kept up by, furry animatronics. You wake up realizing that maybe, just maybe, existence itself was a mistake. Bills. She can fulfill a very specific number of roles. Nahida has an equal, very limited number of options for builds, as you really want to either use Deepwood or Gilded Dreams, Deepwood being significantly better in Bloom teams than Gilded Dreams if you don't have another character that can effortlessly run it. So yeah, just go for Deepwood and don't think about it. However, in teams in which you don't deal a lot of Dendro damage, like Aggravate teams, going Gilded Dreams can be worth it depending on your set stats. Speaking of stats, there's 2 possibilities for main stats, and going something else will get you on the FBI's most wanted list. Basically, go for EM main sets until you hit 1000 EM, at which point your second Ascension passive will cap and not yield that sweet adrenaline release in crit and damage percent anymore. Or go for EM damage crit if your substats are good. Technically, you could also go for something like EM crit, but as I mentioned, you don't want a SWAT team breaking open the door to your basement only to fall unconscious from the Ascension side, fall down the stairs and snap their necks, at which point you will have to hide their corpses behind your Xbox Series X and hope that the smell of Doritos and crusty cum socks is enough to hide their decaying corpses' aroma. As for substats, it is very much the same as every other unit, your main priorities being crit, EM, and attack if you're playing her on field. Now, I could spend 10 minutes listing all of Nahida's viable weapons and their respective advantages. However, no, I'm not gonna do that. The reason being that I, like every other person here, have a very limited amount of time left in this world, and I don't want to use those 10 minutes of precious time to tell you that at the end of the day, Favoni's Codex is a rejective peasant slot. Instead, I recommend you go watch another channel for that, like the Jeff77. He's pretty cool. Speaking of cool, have you bought 2 kilos of cabbage only for them to rot after 3 days because you didn't immediately turn them into coleslaw? Coleslaw. God, I fucking hate the Dutch. Anyways, now your real existing problem has a solution. I present to you a fridge. It will cool your cabbage and make it rot slower, but since you are a civilized, proud human being, you will let it decay anyways, as we don't negotiate with terrorists. And worse, the Dutch. Now, coincidentally, fridge happens to be the name of one of Nahida's many possible teams. It consists, besides of Nahida, of at least 1 cryo and 1 hydro character, the idea being to trigger as many blooms as possible and freeze the enemy so they actually get hit by them. Interestingly enough, through some hyper theory crafting bullshit, cryo, an element that does not interact with Dendro, somehow does increase the amount of seeds you get. Sadly, this isn't enough to make the specific team recommendable, but go for it anyways. Honestly, I don't even care what you do with your resources. It's not like I get paid for these videos, and it would be in my best interest to not upset people. So I don't give a shit. Go for a fridge, go for a burning Malkanya team, which due to Nahida's 1.5 units of Dendro application now has a theoretical 100% uptime, making it somewhat viable actually. However, I know you're not here for all these fun and unique teams, as everyone and their walking hallucinogenic knows. You're here because the only way your Homo erectus brain feels joy is by seeing numbers increase. Only instead of watching your cryptocurrency crash like every other person addicted to watching numbers go up, you've decided that Genshin was more important than that, more important than your mental well-being, more important than your human relationships, and more important than maintaining a healthy diet. That's where our sponsor, Hello. Who am I kidding? I have 100 subscribers. This is slave labor, and I don't have a choice other than to accept it and keep writing the script, editing this video, making this thumbnail, only to end up as a Nvidia factory worker in China with a salary of 5 yuan a day, which translates to roughly 1.5 pizza sticks in imperial units, and die at the tender age of 13 to a GeForce RTX 4090 exploding after being plugged into a 600 watts power supply, which is already more than the average Chinese household uses in a week. Honestly though, I'm fine with that. I'm not even gonna complain. However, it's been a page and I still have not talked about Hyperbloom teams. They're broken, okay? Like, what else do you want me to say? My Nahida Hyperbloom team outdamages my Feudal Rational team with a triple crown Hu Tao that I've invested at least 10k resin into in single target. It's fucking stupid, and I strongly recommend you give it a try. It's a very fun team. Furthermore, there's Quicken teams in violet or green flavor. Playing Nahida can be a solid team, provided that you pair her with good enough teammates like Fischl or Bedo. However, I hate being negative, but fuck off with Nahida in aggravate teams. Because of Nahida's 1.5 unit Dendro application, swirling Electro suddenly becomes harder than... Okay, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna make that joke. Now, you might think to yourself right now, oh, he must be exaggerating. Missing an Electro Swirl or two can't possibly be that bad. To which I say, yes it is. Not only can Venti or Kaze, as you may or may not know, absorb Electro, meaning they can aggravate, translating into a fuck ton of damage, but pressing your Kaze skill only to see one singular damage number makes me want to turn Arenara into coleslaw. In summary, despite Dendro Traveler potentially having uptime issues and dealing close to no damage, I'd still recommend them over Nahida in aggravate teams, even if it was worse, because not getting these Electro Swirls is the equivalent of stubbing your toe or stepping on Legos. Not necessarily lethal, but definitely aggravating. See what I did there? I'm very sorry. Now, there's a lot more teams to cover, a lot more character combinations to discuss. However, I'm lazy as shit and the video will be 2 months late already, so fuck you. In case none of the aforementioned possibilities of playing Nahida sounded appealing to you, remember, the only limit to your possibilities is the extensiveness of your own mind and government. Luckily, I was born in, the Kingdom of Hanover, so the camera surveillance doesn't record in high definition yet, and thus can't keep me from expanding the limits of my mind artificially. So remember, smoke crack, gamble your life savings on literal PNGs, cry yourself to sleep, repeat. Have a great rest of your day, and may the Lord protect you from the Dutch.